New World Aeternum has been overhauled and it's set to relaunch on PC and release on consoles for the first time ever. Now for the console players, New World Aeternum is going to have that fresh experience, but also anyone on PC or console can take part in these new fresh start servers, which are all set to roll out on October the 15th. But it's also going to be packed with so many fixes and quality of life updates that, just as a thought experiment, imagine, if you will, that we go back to 2021 and you're stepping into Aeternum for the first time. Only though, the game is now set up for cross-server content, allowing players on small servers not to get left behind or left out of the content like PvP arenas and the dungeons. And speaking of which, there are actually 8 endgame dungeons to choose from, and they also support party finders so that you can get into the content, but also maybe you may remember the queues about all this. And this is, after all, an overwhelming number of players who wanted to play the game, but I've got good news for you on this one. Not only are more players allowed on each server, but the performance and optimization are also able to keep up even if there's hundreds of other players around. If you find yourself in long queues though, when you want to play, there's also a free transfer button right on that menu. Plus, you can also choose your starting weapons, of which there are now 15, and this is up from 11 just 3 years ago, and more teased on the way. Now, every single NPC is also voice acted, and the main story has this beautiful cutscenes that really help set the story and put it front and center. And this style of animation and in-game cutscenes and CGI really has a way of drawing you into the characters and this world. And also for the main story, it actually now rewards excellent XP, giving you a smooth leveling experience that most modern MMO fans have come to expect. You can also now swim, which personally never really bothered me, but some people kept saying that when you can swim, when can I have mounts? And then I'll return. And the good news here is mounts are also in the game and you unlock them around level 20. Fast travel is super cheap and you actually run faster on roads, which is very helpful. Storage and the trading posts have all been linked up as well, so you don't have to worry about traveling from town to town trying to find the right ingredients. Gathering will also now reward you with new items that are going to really just improve that leveling experience, which will help make it even faster. And then also gear sets have been added, so you can now switch your gear at the touch of a button. I almost feel like this is a time to say, but wait, there's more. Repeatable endgame soul trials that you can take part in. The gear score has been increased to 725. They've added in a 20-person boss fight, and I guess the piece de resistance, as we'll wait to see, is they're adding in a 10-person raid. Now the raid itself is supposed to be the pinnacle of endgame content, where you work to overcome multiple bosses through a series of trials. But if you want more than just PvE, they've added in a free-for-all PvP zone with a PvP currency, and it's almost like an extraction mini game that's taking part as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how people respond to that. But speaking of PvP, they've got PvP arenas, which is a cross-server PvP mode. And then you still have Outpost Rush, which is the endgame 20 versus 20. And it also now supports cross-server play. And you also still, on top of all this, have the immersion that New World is just so captivating in the first place. At the end of the day, guys, we're talking about massive updates and changes. And on top of that, you have also the addition of full controller support. You can customize it yourself, and I have guides up here on the channel for you guys if you need to do a deep dive into that. But this is something that is really firing on all cylinders. I haven't even mentioned yet the DirectX 12 rendering. That has been a huge improvement in the game's performance, and there is just so many really great things to love about this build. And so if I was going to answer the question, is it worth it or should you return to this game? Should you start is an easy yes. If you've never played New World, it's an easy yes. Should you return? It's a medium yes, meaning you should at least try it out and see if it actually solves some of the frustrations of why you left in the first place. But when it's all said and done, I'd love to know whether you decide to do that. And speaking of which, guys, if you like MMORPGs and New World Aeternum, and you're also looking forward to some of the upcoming MMORPGs of 2025, I do hope you stick around to the channel, and if you do, sound off just like these amazing new subs. We've got Kim and 36050. Welcome into the channel. I'm sure the subscription button is somewhere around here, and if you find it, sound off. I want to earn your sub, and I'd love to be able to talk with you guys more about these amazing games. Now, before we jump into our message of hope, I'd like to actually take a little bit of time to talk about these marketing strategies that AGS is specifically doing with New World. It's incorporating this concept of an ARPG as really the key pinnacle of their marketing. And I recently actually listened to a video from Blue Squadron, which was doing a reaction to one of my videos early this year. And one thing that he actually kept bringing up was that AGS reached out to him about doing kind of a promotion or marketing deal, and they wanted him to push the advertisement behind It's an RPG. Now, this is interesting to me to hear because I have also partnered with Amazon for an upcoming video, and that wasn't a requirement. It is an MMORPG, it is an action RPG, it is all of these different things. And when it's all said and done, I think they really do want to try and advertise this game to as many people. And let's talk about the state of the MMO specifically, because yes, New World is moving into a more massively multiplayer optional mindset. This is where we see kind of the modern MMO going, because it has the ability to pick in more casuals who aren't really, interested in engaging the community. That doesn't mean the MMO, the online part, is actually truly going away. It just becomes something that you are, if you want to engage with it, you can, and if you don't, you can't. Now, old school veterans of MMOs like myself, this can feel like a real betrayal of what it means to be an MMO, and I actually do agree, but I also understand the marketing and the business and the scale behind these games and just how they function from a cost perspective. It isn't the late 90s, it isn't the early 2000s, and I don't know if you guys are like me, but with 6 kids and they all like eggs, like when you see the egg prices go up, you just know that you're just burning some additional money. And that's what's happened with the cost of subscriptions. They actually haven't gone up, and the value of that money has gone down dramatically while their costs have constantly risen. So you have to go wider and cast a bigger net if you want to try and create that scale and that ability to support it from a financial perspective. Because no matter what, even though Amazon's got enough money that they could keep this game running for free, perpetually into the future, they are a business at the end of the day, and that is something that we all have to kind of find what works best. And the business model that they have with no subscription, I think, is the real reason why it's being listed on the consoles as an ARPG, because MMO, no matter what, invokes the idea that you're going to have to either give your whole life to the game, or that there's some additional monetization subscription that you have to pay. If you look at Final Fantasy XIV and World of Warcraft, for example, when you say MMO, most likely those are the two that kind of pop into the forefront of people's minds. New World is a little bit different, in which that you do not have a sub, and thus you can play after you just purchase it as an RPG that just happens to be online. Now, let's dive into our message of hope. This is a real important subject that we're going to talk about here today. In a recent video a couple of weeks back, I talked about on bonus time how there has been many opportunities for me not to be alive, but also to not exist in the first place. And so since, especially like how coming within a centimeter of dying when kids pushed me into a whole pile of glass that cut me up pretty bad and almost hit my arteries. Whew, like that was like, I just feel like I'm on bonus time. And Kristen Moore says that they also are on bonus time. I get it. I fought off cancer this year and I'm on bonus time. So we want to say a good, yes, way to go, Kristen. Hopefully more people, especially if they're fighting for their lives, are going to have that same story. But yes, bonus time is the mindset. And so this is a good way to transition into what do we do with this bonus time coming up this year. In the next 3 to 6 months, outside of video games, we've got the seasonal depression. Folks, if you guys don't know, I have seasonal depression. It kicks in roughly around October, and there's a couple of tricks that I've learned to kind of address this. Now, note that I do not want to underscore that depression is some light-hearted thing. It's actually very serious, and I want you to take it serious and work on getting help. And I continue to recommend cognitive behavior therapy as a tool, that it is not a weakness. It is a really good tool to help out. The thing I've also found is when it comes to my diet and in this case, vitamin D. Now, ever since I started taking vitamin D on a daily basis, especially very religiously as October kicks up and moves on, I have seen the symptoms of this stuff to like greatly diminish in me. Now, I don't know if that's going to actually help you out, but that's the point in which that there is an answer out there for everybody, I believe. And unfortunately, for some of y'all, you have to take decades to find it. And I've been in that boat where I'm constantly asked the question, constantly getting answers that don't make sense, but are the consensus of science and things like that. And then continuing to push forward until eventually you finally start to find like, well, this actually is helping. This is actually a good thing. And so for me, vitamin D is a huge part of my, fall and winter and into the spring diet, because as a ginger naturally also, it's something that we're deficient in, and it does cause additional knock-on effects. And maybe it isn't vitamin D for you. It could be your diet. It could be the amount of exercise you're getting. I would bet it's probably maybe an issue with lack of sleep. And here's the thing. These all coincide. They knock on effect of each other. Getting less sleep, you're not feeling so good. Mental, boom, boom, boom. And they can have the ability to kind of spiral out of control. So I just want to encourage you guys, especially as we get into video game hype season, and especially as we get into less sunlight in our days, just kind of be paying attention to where you are. And if you are like me with seasonal depression, then let's work on strategies so that way you can have the best, winter possible out there. And again, you do not sit on your hands when it comes to feeling like this anxiety and this depression that can easily overwhelm us in this life. Reach out to those that you love. You're worth living for, and you're worth being around. And so just note that I want you to have an incredible time playing video games, but I also want you to have the best life possible. And sometimes it's just hearing these words can hopefully make all the difference in the world. I love you guys. God bless you. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video. But until then, take care.